Welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking a set of financial results today that honestly reads less like your standard corporate filing and way more like a thrilling corporate drama. We're looking at the Q1 FY27 report for Hindustan Zinc Limited, and it presents us with what I can really only describe as a tale of two very distinct realities. On one hand, we've got exceptional wealth generation, a company just posting massive profit numbers. But on the exact same pages of this report, we have deep, complex regulatory scrutiny and ongoing investigations. So how do these two realities coexist in a single quarter? Well, that is exactly what we're going to explore today. Okay, let's dive into this. 5,469 crore rupees. Just let that sink in for a moment. That is not their revenue for the year. That's their net profit for one single quarter. The first quarter ending June 30, 2026. When a company pulls in over 5,500 crore rupees in pure profit in just 3 months, it immediately demands our attention, right? It hooks us in because it begs the question, what exactly is driving this massive engine of wealth? Now, before we really tear into these financials, let's just briefly anchor ourselves. Hindustan Zinc proudly positions itself as the zinc and silver of India. They're a foundational commodities giant, a subsidiary of the Vedanta Group, and a highly critical player in the global metals market. They aren't some high-flying tech startup. They operate in heavy industry, mining, and metal extraction, which honestly makes the sheer scale of the financial growth we're about to see even more remarkable. All right, let's get into Section 1, Exploding Revenues, looking at those top and bottom lines. To truly appreciate what Hindustan Zinc pulled off this quarter, we have to look at the year-over-year comparisons. Check this out. In Q1 of last year, FY26, they reported 7,591 crore in top-line revenue. Fast forward exactly 12 months to Q1 FY27, and that number has absolutely skyrocketed to 13,033 crore. We're looking at a near doubling of revenue in a single year for an established commodities titan. In the world of heavy industry and mining, a top-line leap of this magnitude is incredibly rare. It signals massive operational scaling, extremely favorable market conditions, or, more than likely, a potent combination of both. And this next part brilliantly illustrates how efficiently they actually captured that revenue growth. This isn't one of those cases where a company grows its sales but bleeds cash in the process. Not at all. Their net profit jumped from 2,234 crore in Q1 FY26 all the way to 5,469 crore. This proves that their explosive top-line growth translated directly, powerfully, and completely into an exploding bottom line for their shareholders. Moving right along to Section 2, Core Segments, where we'll be unpacking their operations under the hood. So, where is all this cash actually coming from? Well, Hindustan Zinc operates in a few spaces, including renewable energy. But when you look at their operations for the quarter, the contrast is just stark. The zinc, lead, and silver segment brought in 12,985 crore in revenue. Meanwhile, their wind energy segment generated just 48 crore. While they do have a footprint in renewables, this financial report clearly shows the absolute, unquestionable dominance of their metals segment. And the profit breakdown perfectly mirrors that revenue split. The zinc, lead, and silver segment generated over 7,100 crore in profit before interest and taxes, while wind energy pitched in just 27 crore. Make no mistake, metals are the undisputed core engine of Hindustan Zinc. It is literally the beating hearts of their entire financial operation. To firmly cement this segment analysis, the financial report actually includes this very direct quote right in the notes. All material expenses are pertaining to zinc, lead, and silver. Basically, everything the company is doing at scale, every major cost, every massive profit, is exclusively tied to their identity as a metals extraction and refining powerhouse. This is, start to finish, a metals story. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Section 3, Financial Health, focusing on margins and efficiency. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is their operating efficiency. Big revenues are great, but how much are they actually keeping? What is truly elite here are these profitability ratios. Maintaining a 52% operating margin and a 40% net profit margin in the heavy, capital-intensive world of mining, that is a massive testament to incredibly tight cost control and highly favorable commodity pricing. Another key indicator of their financial fortress is this number right here. 7.44. That's their debt service coverage ratio for the quarter. Now, last year, this number was a respectable 4.27, but jumping to 7.44 means they are generating over 7 times the cash flow required to comfortably cover their debt obligations and interest. From a purely mathematical standpoint, the company is practically swimming in cash and is deeply financially secure. But we do need to talk about Section 4, regulatory scrutiny, the elephant in the room. This is where the narrative takes a really sharp turn. We've seen the stellar financials, but now we have to address that elephant in the room and enter the realm of regulatory scrutiny. First off, it's important to state that the auditors did give an unmodified opinion on the financials. As the report confirms, they found no material misstatements in the numbers we just reviewed, so the math is sound. However, the auditors immediately followed that clearance by pointing us directly to some very specific, mandatory disclosures in Notes 5A and 5B. They essentially said, hey, you really need to read the fine print here. Let's move to and see how this builds. The auditors, MSK and Associates, specifically drew attention to ongoing investigations by regulatory authorities. What this means is that while the spreadsheet perfectly balances, the corporate environment surrounding the company is currently under a microscope. Let's impartially break down exactly what these two regulatory notes entail. So, Note 5A deals with observations from SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. During the quarter, SEBI flagged observations specifically focused on related party transactions, mostly concerning how they were approved and disclosed. Now, the company notes that this did not result in any financial penalty, restriction, or sanction. Management took the corrective measures directed by SEBI, and the board of directors reviewed it all and expressed satisfaction with those actions. Then there's the second major disclosure in Note 5B, which lays out a timeline of events from earlier this year. Between June 1st and June 3rd, 2026, the Enforcement Directorate, or ED, conducted a search and seizure operation at Hindustan Zinc's premises. This was conducted under the Foreign Exchange Management Act. Over those 3 days, officials actively sought information, records, and documents from the group. Now, the official stance of the company, firmly stated right in the financial report, is that they extended full cooperation to the ED officials, providing all the requested documentation. Plus, the report notes that, as of the time of filing, the TTO Group has not received any further communication from the Enforcement Directorate regarding this specific matter. Finally, the auditor notes also loop back to a short seller report from the previous year that made allegations against Vedanta Group entities, including Hindustan Zinc. So the crucial point here is that management's assessment remains steadfast. They consider these allegations completely baseless. They assert that all underlying transactions have appropriate commercial substance, were duly approved, and fully comply with all laws and contractual obligations. Which brings us to the end of our analysis today, and honestly leaves us with a truly compelling final thought. Hindustan Zinc is currently operating in two simultaneous realities, one of just unprecedented wealth generation and operating efficiency, and another of intense regulatory oversight and mandatory disclosures. The defining question for the rest of FY27 is this: can they maintain this explosive financial momentum while navigating these complex regulatory waters? It's a fascinating corporate balancing act, and you can bet the market will be watching their next quarter very, very closely. Thank you for joining me for this explainer.